Good morning, Facebook friends. Now that this Kaepernick thing is starting to sort of wind down, and it is winding down. In his latest stunt, he did a press conference wearing a Malcolm X hat and a Cuban dissident. What's the Cuban dissident's name? Fidel Castro shirt to the conference, which kind of puts his ignorance on display now that this thing is winding down, because quite frankly he might get cut today, not because of his inflammatory statements, but because he actually kind of sucks as a quarterback. Now that this whole thing is winding down, I just kind of want to add another layer of perspective to this. In the last couple of days, we've heard from a lot of athletes. We've heard from Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. We've heard from the great Jim Taylor. All of these people who are getting in Colin Kaepernick's corner. They're supporting him, saying that it is his right to do this. We've heard from a lot of folks on the left saying it was his right to do this, and they've even said that he was very brave in taking such a strong stance. I'm to the point where I'm kind of tired of hearing about a person's rights, their rights, their rights. People may have a right to do things, but the question is, should they do things? And the one thing we never hear when people are talking about their rights is we never hear about responsibility. Was it Colin Kaepernick's responsibility to take the stance that he took? There are other people who have taken on stances and shown some responsibility. Glenn Coffey was a running back from, I think, Alabama. You may have heard of him. He came out of college the same time Colin Kaepernick did, but he decided to go into the military because he felt responsibility. He forwent or didn't take the NFL option, didn't take the NFL money, the NFL contract, and he joined the military. And then you had Pat Tillman, who did the same thing. He was actually playing for the Arizona Cardinals. You remember him? He felt very strongly. He didn't use the NFL as a shield. He actually went for pass, whatever that is, his NFL contract, and went and joined the military and ended up losing his life. I think that if Colin Kaepernick were crazy, or he is crazy, if he were being sensible, if he were being responsible, he would quit the NFL and maybe, become a police officer. If his big concern was that there's so many black people lying in the street while police officers are on paid leave, he could show his concern by actually doing what the chief of police in Dallas said. Come and sign up. There are job openings. And but he chose not to do that. He chose to use the NFL as a shield. He chose to use his teammates, to use San Francisco 49ers, as a platform to stand on, to spout his inanities. I like to quote President Obama in this, Colin, you didn't build this. So you shouldn't use that platform because you didn't build it. And as I said in previous posts, you actually put your team and your teammates and the league and a lot of people who work for the NFL sort of in jeopardy. One other thing that I'm really tired of with this argument is the notion that in order for me to be heard, I have to inconvenience you. In order for me to be heard, I have to disrespect you. I sincerely don't believe that Kaepernick understood the people that he seriously hurt, the people that he seriously pained, military families that were seriously befuddled and upset by his actions. It sort of reminds me of people who protest and they go down to the freeway. They want to inconvenience you. They want to keep you from getting to where you're going so that you would pay attention to whatever they're complaining and moaning about, whatever they're marching about, as if all of a sudden you find out, oh, that thing that has you so pissed off that you're in traffic blocking me, well, I think that I'll become concerned about it too. It doesn't work like that. What you end up doing is causing animosity. But I'm starting to think that that's what the Black Lives Matter and other agitators want. They want that animosity. They don't want a solution to the problem. I mean, if that were the case, maybe all of Chicago should sit down when the national anthem is played, seeing that they're continuing. How many people have been killed since Colin Kaepernick sat down to protest the flag? How many people were shot to death in Chicago? How many people were shot around this country? You cherry pick an issue, and you think that you're so important that you use somebody else's platform to bring attention to it. I think that if we began to preach responsibility, we would go a long way in solving a lot of problems. Rights and responsibility are the two lungs of a democracy. That's what Solzhenitsyn said, and he ought to know. He was a Soviet dissident, a Russian dissident. He was imprisoned for his ideas. That one must have rights and responsibility. A society must have both in order to survive, in order to prosper. We would go a long way of teaching young people responsibility, not rights. Think how you would be able to go to college and actually get an education without having to walk through miles of protesters if people preached responsibility over rights. Sacrifice your rights and be responsible. By doing that, you're looking out for other people. I'm hoping that we can put this whole thing to bed before the NFL season starts, because quite frankly, I just want to watch football. The NFL is an escape to me, and the Green Bay Packers ought to be able to go to the Super Bowl without all this controversy. That's all I'm saying.